This is Cam. I'm going to give you kind of a producer's commentary over the album Transients. So we're going to go through like technical struggles or some things we went through with trying to write this album. So first off, the name of the album is Transients. Transients means something that's like changing or in a inconstant state. And the actual themes of this album are exploring a lot of concepts and things that young people deal with as trying to become mature and adult in this age, and trying to understand and really see what it means. Because we have in this age a lot more freedom and prosperity to do whatever we want, but in some ways we've removed a lot of the external factors that give us purpose, and so we're trying to we're kind of forced to find purpose within ourselves, and we have a hard time with that. So first up, we got the song Cross and Tattoo. So let's trigger this. So I wrote this song. This is the first song that we ever released under Smoke for Fiction. Actually released it about not quite a year ago, or a year before the album was released, but remixed it, made it a little bit sparklier for the album release. I originally wrote this as a very guitar and vocal heavy song. It's still a vocal heavy song, but when we write, I call it the pivot philosophy. Basically, I'll write one instrument, I'll kind of just leave that there, and then I'll write a bunch of stuff around it, and then I'll pick a new pivot. So I'll say I write guitar, and then I'll write a bunch of bass around that. Well, I'll leave the bass and then rewrite the guitar around that, but always have like one island that you don't change, because humans have a hard time with like having too many options. So that helps you to limit your options, or at least for me, kind of reduce that decision anxiety a little bit. The vocals on this verse here, I actually originally only recorded the bridge like this kind of called my sexy, breathy pop voice. And my friend is like, why don't you try doing the whole song? And it made it way better. Kind of has that like a lot more tender feel to it, which was really what I was going for. This one was kind of hard to write for me because it's the first popish song I've ever really written, or even really tried to write. Because always you make fun of pop because it's only 4 chords, or it's really easy to write, it's super simple. But most of those people have probably never actually tried to write a pop song, including myself. So this is kind of a challenge. Like, if it's so easy, well then why don't you do it, Cam? So it actually turned out pretty well, which I was excited about. But so the way I do synthesizer design is usually kind of divided into 2 main categories. I have like really percussive synths like this. So what that does is is able to carry the song a little bit, so you don't have to have as much percussion just driving through things. And then I have like more pad sweepy sounds that are far more in the background. That kind of gives it a lot of depth. And then this song I actually have a lot of spacey guitar, so that's actually more the pad spacey sound. That adds a lot of depth, and while the synths keep it driving a lot harder. This main lead line, I just took like a little snippet of my voice and or 2 little snippets of my voice, and just pitched them to different things. I actually played the melody in between these little vocal samples I had, ran it through some distortion and lots of reverb and stuff. The drums are all in Superior Drummer except for the kick, which is I think I doubled. Like I high passed the Superior Drummer kick and then overlaid it with a more electronic kick. This little bass guitar sound here, it sounds super fake. I mean, it is super fake, but it sounds super fake to me. I'm like, every time I hear it, I'm like, ugh. The reason I use Superior Drummer here is like these snare build-ups here, like they're real tender. Like, so you can get that instead of like, it's just, then it like slowly evolves into a crack. It's a lot more expressive that way. I had this one of these synths actually kind of like clangy here, which it actually kind of reminds me of like a lot of like hardcore metal stuff. The bass guitar has this like very percussive like clink 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 sound, in addition to actually sound like a bass guitar. and I always thought it sounded cool, very metallic. And so I tried to emulate that with the synth here. It's in the right channel, I think. Yeah. It was kind of hard to write a floor beat that I actually enjoyed, so that was tricky. So this song as a whole is about like one of your first steps of adulthood. I think is not selling yourself completely to the people around you. And so this was like an encounter I had with the person where I was I'm not going to try to look better than I am. I'm not going to try to sell this Instagram version of myself. I'm just going to be flawed. And if you want to be flawed back and we can be closer because of that, that's kind of fine. But either way, I'm going to initiate that to give you permission to do that. And so then this evolves into the first of 4 interludes. So I didn't want to write like a standard album because I don't think I could write a better album than the best albums that I've ever. I'm not going to write a better White Album or by the Beatles or the Black Album by Jay-Z or Metallica. And so I want to do something a little different. So I wrote 4 interludes, and the interludes don't follow necessarily like standard song structure on things. Most of them don't have choruses as much, or I just try to remove a lot of boundaries on myself for writing these songs, for these interludes. But I also wanted to add a couple of extra boundaries where when I wrote the album outline, these interludes have to have a certain feeling, and they have to be a transitionary song between 2 different songs. So going out across in Tattoo, we're eventually going to get into Panther. And that's a darker song, and I needed to, like, Panther is about, I guess, finding a purpose as a young person and really, like, grasping and holding tight onto it, and even when you should let go. There's a certain point where any ideology or anything that you believe, it's time to examine it, and it may be time to leave that. And so, this is the first interlude. And so this is that transition in between Across the Tattoo and Panther. I really liked the synths in this song. I think are really pretty. So these vocals are done by a girl named Jade Murphy. Done by a girl named Jade Murphy. She sings in a band called Retro Candy. I really dig these background vocals she made. Yes, I just told her, I'm like, hey, let's try some random background vocals, see what we can get to overlay on top of it. But it's kind of pretty, so I put it in the beginning. On this album, I really wanted to force myself to try to collaborate, which is historically not gone very well, and I don't really trust people very often in that kind of way, so I was trying to force myself to overcome that character flaw, and it actually turned out really well. So the way I did that is with this song is I basically wrote the whole thing, all the synths, all the vocals, and recorded a scratch track and sent it to her. And I was like, hey, this is what the song's about. This is the meaning. This is what it's transition between. This is the feeling I'm trying to create. And if you want to like change around this, you can. If you want to leave it how it is and kind of just re-perform it yourself, that's totally fine too. And so she definitely put her own inflections on it, and she just sings differently than I do. So, but I really prefer what she did. A lot of these synths I used a microKORG because I wanted to force myself to kind of actually touch and have to express with more than just a computer. Not that I have a problem with that, but having knobs in front of you makes you want to like touch them. Like the synthesizer, like there's like this noisy synth in the background. This which is completely human, so like offbeat, but it really works musically. And I really think it adds to the expression. But also, if you can't play it well, then it doesn't sound good. So it kind of forces you to hold yourself to a higher standard. So I have this like playground sample in here that just swells into like a tube screamer distortion pedal, and then echoes. And this transitions right into a different BPM, which will fade right into Panther. Which I thought that was kind of cool, because I needed a way to transition into like a different key and then a different BPM as well. This is the second song we actually released with Small Friction. I mean, I've re-edited a little bit, but this is pretty old too. So actually the first 2 tracks in the album are the first 2 we actually wrote, or the first 2 real full tracks. So like I said, this song's about like finding a purpose as a young person and then just holding so tightly onto it even when you should leave, and not being able to examine like why you actually got here and that those factors have changed. I think it's a pretty human thing, but it's definitely a young person's issue as well. So actually I wrote this about the Black Panthers. So a while back I just watched some documentaries and read a bunch of stuff on the Black Panthers, and more particularly their origins. Like I thought, like seeing that they were really responding to like some serious injustice that was happening in some specific parts of the country, and like they not only stood up against that and fought against it, but they handled it stupendously well. They were very intelligent, very intentional. Like everything they did was calculated, and like it developed a really cool movement outside of because of that, and just very intentional and very needed. But if you fast forward to the Black Panthers of today, I feel like they're riding on the legacy of before, but they haven't realized that the times have changed. Not saying that everything's perfect or that we don't need to continue evolving, but it's a different time and the factors have changed, and it's our responsibility as people, particularly young people, to recognize that and evolve with it. I originally wrote the song for guitar with like super heavy metal kind of stuff, and it didn't have this little break here. But kind of switched most everything out to mostly synthesizers. For the drums, I used exclusively Superior Drummer. This song was kind of hard to mix because I didn't sing it aggressively because I was trying to, not quite Bowie-esque, but a little bit of Bowie, and that's not a comfortable vocal style for me to sing loudly. So that made it kind of hard for the vocals to cut through, so the verse sounds good. There's a super low note here. I love it. I mean, if you're in like have a big subwoofer, it's like, whoa, right here too. So there's a lot of Trent Reznor, Nine Inch Nails kind of feeling this, particularly this little part here. So he does a lot of, he repeats things, but he makes slight variations on them, and I've really adopted that in a lot of my songwriting, because humans, if you're just constantly changing things over and over and over, first of all, the transitions between them are typically less clean than it should be. But I try to, as much as possible, have like every part that comes after another part, I try to anchor it with something. Whether it's like a timbre or like some sort of drum beat or some sort of similar grooves in the feeling. I think I did a pretty decent job. The song, it has a pretty solid like pacing through it. Like each piece, each part transitions pretty well, which that worked out pretty well. And I think that's one of the most difficult parts, at least for me in songwriting, is like I can write these like 10 cool parts, but transitioning between them and actually making them sound like a song as opposed to 10 cool parts that are played in a row, I think it's one of the most difficult parts.
Slow down, we lost control.
As far as like what I actually do on these vocal chains, I ran, this song was in SM7B, so this mic, and I think I ran into a Joe Meek little preamp. Yeah, it's over there somewhere. Nothing crazy. And as far as the actual in the box plugins, I used the Waves SSL channel. I really like. I've used that on I think every vocal on this album. It's not hugely coloring, but it's kind of nice utility. It has decent EQ. I like the compressor and the gate on it. Yeah, that's the main thing. And then I record all that into Reaper. I really like the solo because it's just long enough, and the transitions between it, I can like walk out the crowd and play it with my wireless unit, and then like run back on stage. So this transitions into, well, we'll eventually transition to a song called One of You. But I think there's this aspect of young people where we are pretty hedonistic, and like we're trying to prove a lot of things to ourselves more than anybody, and we can't even admit that we're trying to prove it to ourselves. And one of those things is enjoying and seeing what the world's pleasures have to offer. We've been told so long this is bad. These are bad things, and if you're actually finally able to taste it, it's until that point you almost glorify these things in your brain as being just so good and better than they ever are. So this is an interlude that transitions into that actually, this is probably my favorite interlude. This song right here. I sampled the song called The Intro by the XX and then pitched it down and then altered it a little bit. Gives this nice, like, wow, really, really cool sound. The vocals on this are a guy named Eric Schultz, who's like a local musician around here. Just really cool voice. Because this song's a really dark song, like really just kind of dealing with some carnal nature of humanity. And I needed somebody who could sing dark music. And honestly, I don't know many people who really write dark music nowadays. It's kind of not, I don't know, it's a little faux pas, I guess. And but his music itself isn't like really angry or dark, but he's just got a really, his subject matter often is, and he did such a tremendous job on this. His voice just works so well. This is on the music right here. I did use that same intro sample, but I reversed it so it swells into the same sample, but it's knocked it down. And so this bass sound here, this high synth is actually just the bass sound run through an octaver, and has this weird glitchy feel because of that. One cool thing I did about this song was I actually sidechain compressed a city noise sample. I think it's like Tokyo or something. Just, like people walking through streets and talking and just bustling at people. I wanted this like almost a little bit of noise just going on all the time, but it's sidechained to the bass. So as the bass plays, it cuts that out. So you can't hear it now, but as soon as the bass fades out, you hear it fade in. And so what I did is actually build this relationship between these two instruments, so that city noise only plays, like it'll swell in after the bass stops playing. And I actually made the vocals affect that as well, but less so. So that instrument's volume, or that sample's volume, is dictated by other instruments. So I built this relationship, and I'm like, all right, go. How does it sound? And so I'm not even playing it directly. They're playing it themselves. And so when I play one instrument and I affect this one, it's actually going to affect these other instruments as well, which I think is interesting ways to use technology. We use it often as a crutch because we're not able to do things we want to do. But I think it's also you can actually give like the song a personality of its own and build these relationships, and you're not necessarily in control completely. And it's interesting to see how that can play out. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But I think it was a cool idea. And so this transitions into One of You. Oh, I've spent so much time trying to figure out this song. Big shout out to my friend Disco Volante. He just came over this is like 5 days before release date. I still couldn't get it where I wanted it, and he just worked with me for like 8 hours straight on it. It was so helpful. This song is, maybe it's a bit personal for me, but it's about, like I was saying before, of trying to prove to yourself, but not being willing to prove to yourself that you belong and that you're an adult and that you're mature, or that you're not missing out, or all these like weird meta struggles that you often don't see or refuse to see inside yourself. And I also wanted to have like a trap vibe in the song because I've never written that. This 808, I went through so many basses for that, and ended up like processing it so heavy. Even the 808 I had has a slight detune at the end, so I ran it into an auto-tune and tuned it again. So I tuned my 808 to get that sound. For this verse, I wanted this like aggressive but understated, like it never really drops, but it's very pressing. I call it Matrix music. I really like that late 2000s, like a kind of like sort of acidy, like electronica. It's like kind of gritty. Vocals on the song I ran through KSM32 Shure mic into a Art Pro channel. This is the first song that I've ever tried to use like actual outboard compressors and stuff, because if you do it wrong, then it messes up the take. But it also allows you to forces you to commit to what you're doing and deal with the consequences of like your production decisions, which I think is a good thing to do, in particular for this album. So the backup vocals, well, the vocals are me, but the backup vocals are a girl named Nicole, kind of recent addition to the band, but she's just picks the stuff up really well. I like the layering of the male and female vocals on top of it.
I'll prove it to you, more to myself. Oh God, I need to call escape, you can call my fear. I call it nothing cause I choose not to hear. In chemical cocktail, the boys disappears. Drunk as a kid's group, things so clear. Path out of hell's a long day, say, but it's taking no time to go the other way.
Yeah, as far as DAWs go, I record all, like, actual tracking inside of Reaper. I really like that software for that. And the majority of synth work I do inside FL Studio, which then I put inside Reaper. Kind of like how that works. And in this album, I really wanted to try to understand and figure out like the current cultural like ideas on, I guess, like popular music, like what is popular today and why. Like, not in the sense of pandering or selling out. I'm gonna do what's popular because it's cool. It's like, no, what is good about this? Like, what can I borrow and learn from today's music or great producers or great songwriters that I don't have? So that's why I was trying to figure out, and then combine it with my own like preferences. So that's what I did in this song. It has like that strong trap vibe, which is I'm 0% hip hop, like nothing about me. But I'm like, okay, well, what can I borrow from this? What production techniques or songwriting techniques can I do? And then combine it with mine. Which those fusions are usually difficult and often very sloppy and don't work. But I think it worked out okay for this song. Ugh. Rewrote this part so many times. Triplet. I really like the vocabulary in this part though. A proclamation of guilty expelled. No, a deep proclamation. So like it's a Protestant Reformation like joke. Yeah, that's pretty obscure stuff. I messed this up right here. That cut, I wanted to be like just like no noise, but I ended up messing it up. But so we set deadlines, because you never finish anything that you want. If you don't set the deadlines, then things gotta slip through. Okay, and then we transition into the next interlude. This one's called Dreaming Abating. So the song's too long. I mean, it's only 3 minutes, but it's too long. I originally wanted vocals on this, or like some spoken word stuff, and long story, it didn't happen, or didn't end up getting on there. I really like the synths on this. I think they're really pretty. I mean, it's a pretty song in itself. It's just kind of gets a little repetitive. If you like zone out, it sounds good, but I do like what I did with those synths here. So what I did is I recorded this pad part in the background, which recorded on the microcord, and what I did is recorded the MIDI and saved that to Reaper, and then I outputted the MIDI back from Reaper into the microcord. So when I push play, it has my expression of me playing it, so like all the subtle imperfections of a human playing it, but I don't actually have to touch the keys now. And then what I did is recorded the audio back out from the microcord. So I went from the microcord into the computer into the microcord, and the microcord back to the computer to record the audio. And what that allowed me to do is I could have the expression of me playing it on this particular device, but also still have my two hands free to turn the knobs and have the expression of, I think, that human touch on the knobs. And then what I did is I duplicated that MIDI, and then I quantized the right channel but not the left channel. So they're pretty close, but they're not exactly the same. There's definitely imperfections on it, not perceptible, but what that allows this is this really wide stereo field. And so that's all these things I played live, like they're actually like I'm changing the knobs on a physical device, which was really interesting. I've never really worked with that much, but I really enjoyed it because to me it's far more expressive and human and flawed and real, which can also be a really bad thing, but I think it worked out well in this. So like that plucky synth, because there's no drums in this, or very little drums in this, and you need something that carries the rhythm of it. And so people often default to percussion, but I think synthesizers are a great way to replace percussion, and often a far more musical and pretty way. This choiry opera part, I actually, it's a synthesized voice. It's like if you solo it and get rid of all the effects on it, it's very Asian sounding. Like I found this like a Japanese like voice synthesizer, and you like type in the words that you want and it basically sings it. And performing with that was interesting to me. It's kind of fun. And my battery's about to die on my camera. Hold on 1 second, I'm gonna switch this over. Okay, up next we have Meant to Be. So my goals with this song were, when I was trying to steal some things from Ed Sheeran, similar to one of you, I was trying to look at what is popular music in this culture right now and kind of try to rip what I can from it, what I think are positive attributes, and kind of integrate them with some of my own styles. So one of the things I was trying to do is, I like how Ed Sheeran's, a lot of his more recent stuff, he uses his vocals in a very percussive, rhythmic way, almost like a drum beat, but while singing. So it's a ba da 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 da. Doesn't necessarily change notes a whole lot, but more focuses on having an interesting rhythm, and I thought that was interesting. So this is my attempt at trying to implement that. This song is about as you get older, you start seeing yourself in more and more of a negative light. Not necessarily that more and more you're worse and worse. It's just you see yourself in more in a realistic light. You tend to hide from the negative aspects of ourselves.
With the lights aloft, the crowds have gone, I stand alone in emptiness. Not a sound is not my own, say the color of a painted lips. So many
Used a lot of spacey like guitar. Pretty much, I think, as far as I know, all the guitar on this album was recorded on a Pod HT 500X. Most of it was with an SG. I had a Cross the Tattoo was on a G&L Telecaster. The drums in this, I did a Superior drum.
These colors I don't wish to leave behind.
These backup vocals are awesome. They're cool. I guess other singer. She did a really good job on this. Fun fact: I didn't get a chance to get this. Never got the snare the way I wanted it. And so, like on the actual first release of the physical albums that we had, like the snare, the drums sound pretty different. So, but I had an extra week before I had to release it digitally, but then I had to make the CDs. So. Digital release is a little bit better on a lot of these songs, but particularly this one. So this whole thing's like an analogy, basically. Like a person like walking into a room and seeing a picture that's always been there, but you've always kind of avoided it. And the picture is every stroke of paint or color that's on that that picture. That painting is basically your life, and so everything good has like a beautiful color, and everything bad that you've ever done and that you become has a negative color. And so I kind of analogize that for the first time in my life, I'm starting to see these dark strokes of color that are on that painting. This little cut right here. Me and Nick, my drummer, like we redid that probably for 2 hours and couldn't get anything that we liked on it. This piano here actually played for real. Like it's not MIDI or anything, which is why it's imperfect, but I really like it. I've been trying to thing where like I kind of like click out or play things on quantized keyboard less and less and see if I can get it sound cool just playing for real. Because I'm far more expressive because I can just let my fingers play and see what happens. It's not better or worse. I think it's more I'm trying to challenge myself and add as many skills to my toolkit that I can. So what I do actually hear, you can hear it in the song a lot, is I like synth bass as far as the actual low end. I think it's really big, but it's a little inexpressive because it's a synthesizer. It's perfect typically. And so what I do often is, you hear this strip here. So that was a bass guitar doing all that, but I actually still leave the bass guitar on the rest of the song, but I high pass it. So basically all you hear is the click, clink, click, click, click of the bass guitar, but then I put that on top of a fairly dark sub bass. So I get that expressiveness of playing a real bass guitar with the perfectness of having a synth bass. And laying together, they're just really big, but still pretty organic. I think it's a nice, like, it's a fresh sound, but not too weird. The auto-tune, I put on the backing vocals here. It cuts. I really was down to the wire on the song, so I didn't necessarily get it to where I wanted, but that's what release dates are for, so you finish things. Definitely the vocals are not to where I would prefer them to be, but the song sounds great live. It's fun to play. Okay, and the next song we're transitioning, well, next song's an interlude, and then we'll be transitioning to, I think, the denouement of the album. So this song it's called Regrowth. It's the fourth interlude. And just like I wanted to collaborate with as many people as I can, I collaborated with two vocalists and songwriters on the first two, but I kind of wrote most of it. This one, name's Disco Volante. He helped me a lot on One of You, but he's become a pretty good friend of mine. I really respect him as an artist, and I wanted him to be able to express his production and the way he writes songs, instead of just giving him a framework of, hey, repeat this back to me in your voice. I want to give him a little bit bigger box so he could really put himself onto it. So what I sent him was just this echoey, like, and the piano and a little bit of the synthesizer, but the rest of it I'm like, here, have fun. And I sent him some lyrics, but he really made up the melodies and these like weird percussive elements, and he really did an interesting job. I never would have written this like this, so it's kind of cool to see how another person took it in a really interesting direction. And similarly, like with that synthesizer, it starts fading out towards the end, but like that initial weird percussive hit at the very beginning, it echoes like basically for forever. And because the song doesn't really have any traditional percussion, it allows it to have like a quarter note high like beat. But it's really interesting because it's just a delay doing that. So I'm always trying to find interesting ways to keep the rhythm and pace of a song without having to just having a standard kick, snare, hi-hat kind of pattern going on. Fun fact, that hit at the beginning, we originally had a couple other songs when we have this album, and that's like the last note of that other song, because I was trying to make a transition between the two. Ended up not using the other song, but I left that hit, so that's why it has so much character, because it's just the end of an entire song that I am cutting off. Okay, and now we're going to be transitioning into A Beat of the Necklace. This song was a struggle for me, because like I wrote out the outline. It was like, hey, this needs to end in like a really cool way. I wanted to end in like a really mature and like moving towards maturity direction, and just writing something that has this like almost nostalgia and humility and appreciation for everything that's happening around you. It was like, how do I write a song that feels that way? But I think it turned out pretty well. The basic premise of the song is about acknowledging, I guess not privilege has a political connotation, but your privilege as being of having thousands of people who've worked so hard to create the prosperity that we all live in today. And not in the sense that you should see that with guilt, but responsibility and gratitude. Just seeing that like your grandfather, your father, or even just every person who's ever fought in a war to keep the country that you live in the way it is, like, or to be able to evolve, is like you owe them so much. And like you stand on their shoulders of these thousands of people who've worked really hard and sacrificed so much and sometimes died for what they believed in, so you could have what you have today. Because of that, like I think that empowers us with a large sense of gratitude. So this is the last song on the album. It's called Beat of the Necklace. This pad, it actually has a pretty minimal instrumentation, a lot of guitar, but that's mostly it. It's kind of pretty sparse for me. I mean, it's a little more rock than I usually write, but this pad I did with a microchord. You hear these little clink, 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 clinks. Actually, just play that on my ring, just hitting the guitar strings. I really like the shimmery verb that kind of gives this pad feel. It's not a pad, it's just 4 guitar tracks with a lot of reverb on them.
I'm just another bead on the necklace. Stressed a million
I used to play a lot in church back in the day, and in a lot of ways, this has it's kind of an ode to what I learned and how I learned how to play with them. Because in church, you don't get to be very loud as an instrumentalist, and as a guitarist, you want to play, so you find ways to fill in the cracks and find a place for yourself. That's not just standing there pounding power chords, which developed me to have a lot of this. I really like these spacey sounds. Because guitar typically is a very percussive instrument. You hit it with the pick and it's loud and then it gets quieter. But the way I play with the volume pedal, like I hit it and then I move the volume pedal up and it lets me swell in notes. Kind of like a violin, but a little bit different, but similar concept. And like you can do stuff like that where you actually, it's like I heard this from some country music, but you basically bend up to the note that you want and hit the note and then fade your volume pedal in and then move the note back down. So it's like allows you to like bend down on guitar, which you typically can't do without a guitar, without a volume pedal. So this piano is pretty wide. What I did on here was I recorded it live. I didn't quantize and everything. I recorded like a digital piano. It has a MIDI out. So I recorded the MIDI and the actual signal of the piano. And then I hard panned that, or pretty hard panned it, and then put the MIDI through Piano VST, and then put that on the other side. So I have two pianos playing the same thing, but one's like an actual physical piano that recorded the audio, and one's just a VST. So that kind of gives a nice stereo feel to it.
Never once complained. Warriors who killed or gave it all. So grant me this liberty.
The song's scary to write because first of all, it's very emotional, it's very personal, and like I didn't drown everything in like 1,000 layers or a lot of reverb like I normally do. And like I'm always super terrified of writing corny music. I'd rather write a safe, like angrier or darker song, and then chance something being corny, which is just a deep insecurity on my part. So this was kind of challenged me to like, all right, well maybe it will be corny, maybe it won't, but like you need to do this and push yourself. Yeah, this song above everything else is a lot more just imperfections and mistakes in it. I mean, nothing played wrong necessarily, just very human. Oh, this solo. I just could not get it. I took like 90 takes of it, and all of them were just tiny little bit imperfected. Perfect. Just the feeling I wanted. Like when I scratch tracked it originally, I just wrote this, just spitballed that solo. It sounded great. And so I can play it better technically now. It just doesn't have as much feeling as the first time I ever just winged it. Like I didn't double the vocals. Like there's just one vocal track through this entire song, like for the most part, except for like the choir stuff in the end, which is kind of all the stuff I do to add sparkles and make things better. And I typically do in songs. I didn't do in this song, which was scary. I'm like, if the song's not good, I can't hide it, you know. But if it is good, it'll allow, like, I don't have to hide, like, trying to make it look better than it is.
Place your foot on my shoulder and I will.
This song, like, even after the album, it still convicts me. Just like, I've always written about stuff that I kind of had gained a little bit of mastery over. And this one, I'm like, I still have, I'm not lifting the next generation up. I'm still not embodied with responsibility and gratitude, so it's kind of a self-incriminating song. This is super core here. So I recorded like 20 or 30 different like layers of vocals. I mean, it's got me and my backup vocalists and stuff, but we also like walked downtown with like a hand recorder and just like, hey, we want to be on an album. Not many people really wanted to sing in the middle of the street, but we got a couple of people, and we got a couple of friends, so and just hearing like a chorus of people, like both as a personal thing, I mean, it's really cool to have people I care about in the city that I live in to be on my album, but it's also really cool to hear these people that I care about proclaiming this thing with me. And this is all just one taked, or maybe two taked. Just micro Korg. Yeah. One thing I like to do is take the micro Korg and run the pad into a very, very like 10-20% mix, like ring modulator. Kind of gives this weird, like nice talky feel to it. So that's Transients. A lot of work, a lot of time, a lot of mistakes. Hopefully a lot of growth. So thanks for watching this. If you got any questions, please feel free to post below. If you want me to dig anything, I'd like to. Alright, laters.